electoral results of the what do we call it now? National assemblies.
Okay.
But when it got to the turn of the
Okay.
presidential results, it became difficult. It became an Herculean task. I mean, we were at that polling unit till around 6:30 to 7. But till we left, it was not uploaded. And just
Mm.
as of last night, I still checked that server, and I realized that out of 170 something thousand, only 75,000 plus had been uploaded.
Uploaded. Okay.
That puts a great question on the integrity of our anticipation of a fair INEC. Of course, we know politicians, for those of us who had been in the game,
Mm.
they go somewhere, the right result. There was a video that was trending from a Papa Access where a woman was screaming that, no, this is wrong. This is not what should be happening. The results we wrote from the polling unit is different. And we saw the INEC form, I think form EC, it's D or C. I don't know.
I'm not sure. Mm.
I probably at the ward level or local government level. We saw the guy. We saw a result sheet that was stipexed. Seriously, I mean, virtually all line stipexed and all of that. So it raises question. The faith in INEC was born out of more the faith in Beavers. And if
Okay.
in the collation of the results,
Mm.
Beavers is now sidelined, it becomes something of worry. Quite unfortunate how Senator Dino Melai went about it yesterday. He seemed to want to be disruptive, but if you know politicians will say, make sure you win on the field. And going to the courts is another different ball game.
Mm.
And at times, this particular election, there's no reason why there should be discrepancies on the field, as it were. The mechanisms, the systems in place, put in place for the seamlessness of this election seems to be fail-proof. But we realize it is not so. Like the INEC chairman was responding to Dino yesterday. Senator Dino was saying from the polling units, we had discrepancy loading the results.
Mm.
It got to the ward unit. We thought it's going to be rectified. It's not been rectified. Then we got to the local government, the same thing. We got to the states, the same thing. Now we are at the national poll. I mean, the national. It seems we want to be experiencing the same thing. Whereas the argument of the INEC chairman is
Mm.
that you should go back to the local government. That's where you're supposed to have punctured this. But in a
Okay.
situation where you're not allowed to puncture, what happens? This is the kind of situation we get. I think the INEC chairman needs to be very sensitive to these issues. I mean, one of the demands of Senator Dino Melaye was, please let your Rex, before they give the announcement of the result, tell Nigerians
Mm.
based on what has been uploaded on, because the basis of this, you see, the nucleus of this election
Mm.
is the beavers. The only thing that had earned the trust of Nigerians
Mm.
is the introduction of
Of
beavers.
beavers.
So we can't boycott beavers. We know politicians would always write fictitious results. And I think I was reading somewhere this morning or yesterday that there's been several attempts to attack the INEC server. If we had painstakingly come this far,
Okay.
I think we should be sensitive enough to ensure that everything goes on seamless. Because
Mm.
in truth, I can tell you for free, I've been in that game before. I know how they act. Politicians would find a way of making sure they manipulate things. And if, like that lady in Apapa was saying, which was obvious for all to see, the only way we can go about it to ensure that everybody believes, okay, I won squarely or I lost squarely, is
Mm.
to go back to where the trust had been generated, and that's in Beavers.
Mm. Okay. So in this light, having to look at it from INEC's point of view, so would you say that INEC has to still go back to using beavers because in different places people had complaints about how beavers was faulty and all of that, and a lot of people had the same experience as well.
You know, if If the issues that happened at the polling unit had not been something a lot of Nigerians witnessed, would have been retrospecting, putting, adding voice to this. And there's also the information which we see have been going round. Of course, I know that ballot stuffing is not possible.
Hmm.
We know that wherever ballot snatching happened, it's a waste of time. We know that wherever rigging was done, I mean, except for some parts of the north, like we saw underage children voting, and the CP was quite an interesting person. So I've said that probably they had stunt growth. I mean, when you see a young boy
That
of
you cannot tell the age.
exactly, when you see Aki and Popo, you know Aki and Popo are older people than when you see little children. It's quite unfortunate that that's happening. But that said, I think the only way out of this rigmarole we are into is what won the trust of the electorate is Beavers. And
Hmm.
beyond Obasanjo, former President Obasanjo talking, and then the person who is behind the peace accord,
Hmm.
that's General Abdul Salam.
Mm-hmm.
He has also talked, and then we see EU had talked. We see IDI, NRI, national, I
Different
mean
organizations
international
having
observers.
to
They are
raise
talking.
concerns. Mm.
And what is the question about this election? It's not about it not being peaceful, as it were. Of course, there were skirmishes. It's about the trust reposed in INEC,
Mm.
not substantiated at this moment. That's a big ink and dent on the personage of INEC that all Nigerians were looking forward to. And because of that, you see that a lot of conspiracy theory
Mm.
might start coming up. You see some people would cook up stories, some people, not because INEC had probably done anything wrong that is noticed by all. But
Mm.
the fact is the basis on which this election was predicated, that saw people. I mean, we saw somewhere, I think in Surulere, a lady was macheted, was bleeding. She still bandaged her eyes and came back to the polling unit just to ensure she cast a vote
I
for
vote.
the person of her choice. It is a disservice if the result of that polling unit does not reflect the uh, 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 exact choice of all the voters
Mm.
that voted in such a polling booth. It's
Okay.
a disservice to that lady as well. And as Nigerians, beyond sentiments, beyond, you see, we need to stop reasoning in our tribes. We need to start reasoning in Nigeria,
Mm.
because the skirmishes, the scars of the wars that happened 40, 50 years ago, we can't continue putting it, transferring it to the upcoming generation. We need to get to a point where we build nationals rather than tribal and ethnic uh,
Okay,
people,
so going
citizens.
back to some of the agents who staged the walkout yesterday, talking about Senator Dino Milaye and former Imo State Governor Emeka Ikedionha and some other people. So there is a part where they had to tell the INEC chairman that INEC should suspend the collation until results from the states are uploaded to the IREV. And now the INEC chairman also had to reject the idea, saying that there is nowhere in the law that says that the commission must transmit all the results on IRF before the manual collation. And also advising the aggrieved agents, whatever party feels you're not satisfied with this, you can go seek redress in court. So how do we hold INEC to this? Because
You see,
they've said it that there's nowhere in the law that says they cannot
you see
do the manual collation first.
at times, it's not in the law, it's not outside the law.
Mm.
The law is written as a compass. The law does not tell you everything you should do. The law does not tell you where to sleep, when to sleep, or when to wake up.
Mm.
But the law tells you that in your process of wanting to sleep, don't be a disturbance to someone else. So, an INEC being the umpire, there are some things you would have to do out of discretion, especially if that thing is questionable to the essence, to the reason why the law was created in the first place.
Mm.
The essence of this law is to ensure transparent. And then we had a president who said this election must be the freest, fairest, and most transparent election. Uh, that in itself shows that anything that would want to cast any iota of doubt
Mm. Should not be allowed.
should not be allowed. When you look at the basis of all those political parties being there, is because they've received a result from every polling unit. They've done a compilation in their own situation room based on what they've received. So, if for any reason they are getting discrepancies, what do you think happens? What's happening now is what should happen naturally. It's not about winning or losing. It's about the credibility of the system. And that credibility is being questioned now. If, for instance, someone is saying in polling unit A, we had 20 for party A, we had 32 for party 7, party D, and then we have, but the results being announced, that result I just talked about is supposed to be uploaded, but it's not being uploaded. And then a result is now being announced that is even having a slight discrepancy, even if it's just one difference from what the all agents in that polling unit got. Of course, backs will be raised up. Instead of
Okay.
saying go to the court to seek redress, that's another cost on our economy. I mean, we know that electoral cases don't come cheaply, and why, when we can write it at this base, at this point, why do we have to go to the court?
Okay.
I mean, it's an unfair one from the INEC chairman, and I think he should have a rethink, because the confidence we have, he is the one that gave it to us. I know he's quite under pressure right now, and I would just advise that he calms down. He probably consults widely, and so that we can progress on this.
All right. Thank you so much for your thoughts, Lubinko. 6 minutes to 8 on Women Radio, WFM 91.7. And yes, it is the newspaper review. The newspaper review is where we get to review the dailies across different Nigerian newspapers and we get to analyze them together. Send us your comments, your contributions, 070 317 56537. 070 317 You can listen live at the website www.wfm917.com. Download the mobile app to listen live, WFM 917. So, this one on the Nation newspapers. This one says Obasanjo under fire for seeking cancellation of polls. Now, former President Olusegun Obasanjo has displayed in court mischief and hypocrisy by calling for the cancellation of the already conducted elections. This is according to the APC Campaign Council. So they're having to say that the former president having to call for the cancellation of the conducted election is just mischief and hypocrisy. Now, the APC-PCC is warning that what Obasanjo is trying to do with this statement is just trying to endanger the country's democratic process. And now, the APC-PCC Special Advisor on Media, Communications and Public Affairs, Dele Alake, is having to react to the letter to saying that this is not needed and that the former president is acting in bad faith. What do you think? A lot of people agree with that letter. Some people do not agree with the letter, calling on the president to cancel the elections for not passing credibility and transparency tests, just like other international observers have raised concerns as
One
well.
one of the stipulations in the new electoral system is where the credibility of an election is put to question, and rightly so. I mean, not just allegations. Such elections will be cancelled. And President Obasanjo, I don't know the basis of his information. Uh, Obviously, whoever feels cheated, we saw quite a lot of. I mean, it's in the news that 74 polling units in Kogi State has just been cancelled. Uh, we saw a lot of places where elections also did not hold and all of that. Um, as much as it seems President Obasanjo is eating up the polity, and of course, politics is being played. I'm very sure if APC was also feeling the heat, they probably would have done the same. It's a dicey one. Politicians would always do this. I mean, maybe for personal interest. But what we should look at is based on the observation of virtually every international observer. I
Okay.
mean, we could want to talk about we Nigerians because we are partisan, our emotions might be put into it.
Mm.
This election is being uh, termed to lack credibility and transparency by EU, by the man who was behind the peace accord, by international observers. So that raises a lot of question, and Nigeria needs to go beyond. I mean, we shouldn't be having this argument based
Mm.
on the preparation that had gone into this
Okay.
election, based on the machinations that was given to this election, based on the publicity
Mm.
to win the trust of the people that was given to this election. We shouldn't we shouldn't be having this argument. I mean, now let's look at it. There were at least about 18 or minimum of 10 people contesting for House of Reps, for the Senate in
House of Assembly.
each
Mm-hmm.
polling unit. It was very easy to upload their results.
Mm.
Then the presidential, which is having maybe just about four or thereabout. You know, I mean, it all of a sudden becomes difficult. You see, it raises question. It raises question. It's definitely a case of something is fishy somewhere. I mean, had it been that all the others had the same difficulty, we could have. But how can? And of course, computer is garbage in, garbage out. There's always someone behind the control at the back end of a computer to make you see whatever you are seeing.
Mm.
But the fact that this is, I mean, if it had been, it happened in one polling unit, in another, it didn't happen. But it was a general thing. And up till now, I don't think we have 80 of 1,770 something thousand polling units uploaded.
Mm.
So are we now saying, and don't forget, this is the exact thing that happened in Oshun. In Osun State, the first report gotten by APC is different from the report got by PDP from the same server. Whereas this is a server that is supposed to upload only what is on the server is supposed to be announced.
Mm.
Once born, twice shy. And I wouldn't be surprised that's the reason we have the PDP and the LP having, I mean, and the other parties having the stance they have now.
Mm. All right.
Let's use the basis which we've all agreed on. Let's not change the post.
Mm.
And that basis, for even for INEC chairman to announce results, the basis for which he got most of us to believe that it's going to be a credible election
Election. Mm-hmm.
is the beavers. We can't boycott that. Considering that on the INEC server, as we speak, not even up to 80,000 of the 100 and something, 70 something polling units has been uh, uploaded. That's a dent on INEC chairman's image himself. We don't have to be in a rush. We've come too far. We are at the precipice. We are at the brink, and we must do things right. So at
Mm.
the end of the day, even if it is uploaded and it is false, what happens? The different parties knows how they will seek redress,
Okay.
and that settles it.
Hmm. All right. Keep your text and WhatsApp messages coming in on 070 317 56537 My name is Esther Alaribi, and yes, we're reviewing the dailies across different Nigerian newspapers this morning. Our analyst for the morning is Obide Yolarin Wajilubinko, and I have Elizabeth Aquirigwe who is taking our text and WhatsApp messages. Yes, Elizabeth, let's hear you.
Okay, so we have this message. We have this message coming from Barrister Ugo Osuji from Festac. He says, "Good morning, WFM, Esther, Elizabeth, and the analysts Lubinko.
Good morning.
Good
20,
morning.
2023 election and Commonwealth observation of a peaceful election sounds sober as Chief Obasanjo and Abdusalami Abubakar faults manual transmission of election results was in tandem with Section 60 of subsection of the Electoral Act 2022. Obasanjo's voice may be grating, but he holds the key to the good health of the polity. As INEC chairman and his apparatus must save Nigerians and Nigeria now that it matters. Yes, an event had happened upon which it is difficult to speak. Yet, the more dangerous to remain silent. Nigerians were promised a seamless election, bearing 4 years of INEC and its chairman braggadocious preparation for the elections 2023. Then hitches were used as fig leaf to cover up. Must electoral institutions in Nigeria continue to sacrifice culture and strategy for a breakfast? May their prayers not be heard. So we also have this one from Rosenje Olawale Mutu from Alakbere. He says, "Good morning, dear presenters. Obasanjo has overstayed his goodwill and commands with the mismanagement of the country's limited resources under his watch. He says he is a problem to the growth of the country and he says no solution can come from him. If the other elder men are like him, the country will become an history in some will become history in some month. It says bad followers will never produce good leaders. Nigeria will survive. Allah bless Nigeria." We also have this one from Additional Wasiu in Ikorodu. He says, "Good morning to you in the studio on Dino Milai display in Coalition Center in Abuja." Says, I don't just understand our politicians because the agents of LP also join him in the show of shame and they forget that it is the same channel the results of Enugu State election results and Lagos State election results came through. Why is the other why is the other party not calling for the cancellation of that election from their states? They should wait until INEC is done. God bless Nigeria." He also says on Obasanjo letter, "It is unfortunate that an elderly man who is supposed to be a statesman issued this kind of statement that can cause calamity." He says, "Why is Baba doing this? Assuming Peter Obi is the leading candidate in this race, can he say the election should be cancelled?" So that is what additional Wasil says.
Let me respond to additional Wasir. We need to be we should try as much as possible to be void of sentiments right now and live above our emotions.
Okay.
Of course, yesterday on some groups I belong to, I said based on what is being released,
Mm.
of course, the victory at the polls is tilting towards someone. But then, there had been some narratives outside trending. We've seen a place like Ekiti State's result that was first released. I mean, it was released just about some hours. Some were even saying it was already uploaded as far back as 12 p.m. on
Mm.
Saturday, and some were even saying that election results, based on the timeline on it that has been circulating. How true all this is, I really can't tell. That the result was uploaded on the 20th of
All of
uh,
those are just allegations and people
exactly,
speculating here
and
and there. So
speculating.
whatever INEC
So
tells us is what
is
we're going to
whatever
hold on
INEC
to.
tells us is what we must hold on to,
Yes.
which is the basis of all that is going on. Because I know, have you ever been in a situation where everybody knows this is how things should be,
Okay.
but you know that you are being conspired against, and because the person who is seen as the umpire,
Mm.
yes, is everybody is supposed to go with whatever the umpire says, but it is it's the judgment of the umpire seems to be having okay, something happened to me sometimes ago
Okay.
in my residential area where I and my neighbor we had some misunderstanding, and obviously everybody knows I was not at fault. At times it's just these cases of vindictiveness or jealousy or envy,
Okay.
and probably because he is close to the estate chairman, then
Mm.
he went to report to the estate chairman, and the estate chairman came
Okay.
to placate the situation. And you know what the estate chairman said to me? Young man, why are you being a threat to the life of this your fellow human being?
Was that after hearing both
He
sides?
had not had my side, and I just gave
Okay.
it to him straight. Sir, I'm sorry. Based on the premises which you had come in, you already tell me I can't have a fair hearing. The only way that I would believe you are here to bring about justice is you apologizing in the presence of all of us here to me. And he said, what? And others latched onto that. We told you he's arrogant, he's rude, he's this. And the man left. But I'd made my point. And that is exactly what is playing out right now.
Mm.
These allegations, the only way those making the allegations can be quietened is to follow the rule as it has been. It, these rules are not just made for now. These rules were made long before now to make now seamless.
Mm.
And we need to understand this. And that is why the most important person in Nigeria as of today, right now, is the INEC chairman. The fate of Nigeria is in his hands.
Hmm.
The reports already coming in for INEC is not a palatable one. Even the neutral observers are saying this system is not transparent. We shouldn't be having that conversation now, because the machinations, the technology. I mean, we have always been talking about technology. Technology brings about change. We saw it at the polling booths, the polling units. I mean, for those who were verified, it was seamless. Some used their thumb, some used face capturing.
Facial
You
recognition.
understand? And it was seamless. Why is it at the most important point there's hiccup? And that's the questions Nigerians are asking. And
Okay.
it would only do well for INEC to answer those questions for us to believe we are making progress.
All right. All right, Elizabeth, the messages.
Okay, so we have this message from Val Okachi. He says, from what we have seen so far, it is obvious that the integrity of the electoral umpire, INEC, has been terribly compromised. The hope Nigerians had in the system has been dashed. He says the failure of the beavers to function effectively was a calculated attempt to truncate the will of the people. How do we explain a situation where the National Assembly results could be uploaded, but that of the presidential election could not? Politicians succeed in rigging election with the convenience of INEC staff. The chairman has failed Nigerians and has no business continuing in office. He should resign immediately, while the activities of INEC should be thoroughly investigated. God help Nigeria. And that is from Val Okachi. We have this message also from Damian. He says, in spite of all the assurances given to the masses on a credible election and on tight security, election was a colossal mess. If votes do not count this time, people will no longer ever trust the system, and it could indeed lead to anarchy. Party agents in final collation center Abuja walked out of venue, and they could not bear the falsification of results announced.
The
He
truth
says,
remains, we really can't call it falsification of results. We really can't say it's a falsification of results. But the fact that that result, we can't align it
mm,
with what's supposed to be on Beavers, which is supposed to be the basis of our argument for this election. That is what we should be talking about. We should not be talking about falsification of result. It's just about doing things right. Yorubas will say, "Ẹ jẹ́ ká ṣe bọ́n ṣe ń ṣe, kó lè rí bó ṣe
At
ń
the end
rí."
of the day, so all of this speculations of the numbers not adding up and all, we still cannot. Nigerians, people go into the polling units. You said this is what you got from your place. You still cannot be. You don't have access to this data. It is only INEC that can tell us what. But again, like the INEC chairman has mentioned, saying that if there is any cause why you do not agree with this and all, you can seek redress in court. But I like the fact that we get to see party agents and people who were at these places coming out to say, no, I have evidence. I have my own numbers here. There was this particular part where I saw some people having to say, yes, I have my own numbers here. And some of them, you get to see the stuff like corrected figure and stuff like that. There's room for that. If you just have your evidence, there's room for that for you to come and tender it and let's look at it. How did you come about this? Why do we have this and all? Well, that's another conversation entirely to go into. That's another conversation entirely. As it is right now, yes, there is a lot of pressure on the INEC chairman.
Yeah,
There
there's
is
a
a
lot
lot of
of
pressure on
pressure on
him.
the INEC chairman. And the beauty of this is that the INEC chairman needs not allow himself to be under any kind of pressure.
Mm.
I mean, he's the umpire. I mean, he could just to make sure there's fairness for everybody. At the end of the day, if what is uploaded does not tally with what comes from the polling unit, then the people can seek redress. But from the part of the INEC chairman, it must be seen as is fair, is living up to the provisions he himself have made
Okay.
for Nigerians. And that is the only point. I mean, it's it's how does it sound to you? Out of 170 something thousand polling units, just
Hmm.
about 70 has been uploaded. We still have over 100 plus yet to be uploaded. And don't be surprised, those that are making these arguments, they probably have proofs.
Hmm.
Because beyond being uploaded, some things are announced, and the law states that whatever had been announced by INEC is binding on all. Everybody is fighting for their life, and we should respect that,
Hmm.
considering the fact that the basis on which they are fighting is tenable. At the end of the day, if we would have to, I mean, INEC, as much as possible, should first ensure that we have an election that saves us the cost of going to the court. So
Hmm.
whoever would now go to the court must, I mean, I mean, when you lose fairly, you really would want to go to court.
Hmm.
The cost of going to court in itself, it will tell on our economy.
Hmm. All right. Okay. It is 40 minutes past 8 on your Women Radio, WFM 91.7, and this is the newspaper review. The newspaper review is where we get to review the dailies across different Nigerian newspapers and we get to analyze them together. Send us your comments, your contributions, 070 56537. 070 56537. Send in your comments, your contributions, and we'll be sure to take all of them in good time. Listen live at the website www.wfm917.com. My name is Esther Alaribe, and I have with me Elizabeth Akwerigbe, who is taking all of our text and WhatsApp messages. Our analyst for the morning was speaking to Obide Olariwaju Lubinko. So, Elizabeth, let's hear you some more messages.
Okay, so yes, we have this one once again from Additional Wasiu in Ikorodu. He says, I disagree with Lobinko. He says you cannot compare a state election with general election, which all the states participated. And I will give you an example of the cashless policy. We have been doing transfer before now, but when implementation started February 10 this year, many people joined in the transfer. The traffic became so much on the internet and many people cannot receive the money sent to them. It says this was what happened to INEC server, and each political party has agents in each polling booth in the world, all over the country. It says God bless Nigeria.
I appreciate the postulation of that person, but then I would fault it. The banking sector had the experience it had for one reason. I am privileged to know one of my big egbons who is a banker, and he explained the situation to us. At the building of these websites, these platforms, it is assumed that, okay, let's assume this platform, we need 500 people concurrently on it.
Okay.
A space for 600 people is built. But all of a sudden, That
The
500
demand.
people had surged to 700 or 800 people, which is
Okay.
why that came down. For INEC, the case is different. INEC is from the inception of building that platform, had actually said and known that I'm expecting this number of traffic concurrently. So the platform should have been built to conform with that expectation. But the
Okay.
question is, why is it the National Assemblies? We must not lose focus of the right questions. We must throw away our sentiment. The National Assemblies were uploaded, the most important of it all,
But
till the moment,
at the end of the day,
till the
at the
moment
end
has
of the
not been
day,
uploaded.
you really cannot determine or you cannot choose
Yeah, that
what
is
works at what time, because we're
exactly.
working with the network at the end of
No,
the day.
whether you're working with the network or not, the fact that in your polling unit you tried uploading the presidential first, it didn't go. In my polling unit, I tried uploading
The result.
the House of Reps first, and it went through, and then you went back. You- I mean, if this is something done simultaneously, it's not like you understand. I mean, not one, as according to the report, not one. So, what is the basis for that? These are the questions we should be asking. We shouldn't be too sentimental about those things. I'm saying this because I want fairness, I want justice, the basis of the trust of the people. Why even virtually all the political parties needed no polling agent, because everybody at the polling booth was almost a polling agent. You see, for instance, from my own uh, uh, um,
Polling unit.
polling unit, I have the result. I snapped it, and I was even able to share it on some platforms because it is original. If I'm apprehended tomorrow that you were sharing results, it's just a matter of go and compare it. I even made sure I captured the face of the copper, the returning officer. This, why are we doing all of this? We are doing it for transparency's sake. Now that transparency's sake is being questioned. That effort I put into all of that to achieve that, I'm beginning to feel stupid. And that is the question.
All right, Lubinko, let's hear from more Nigerians. Yes, let's take some of the messages that we have there.
Yes, so we have this message from Chooks from Ikeja. He says, "Good morning, WFM." He says, "Here's my observation, having been voting in the Nigerian election since 1979. He said, "What happened in the polling unit where I voted last Saturday was not, it was not an open secret at all. And he said, I noticed that it was deliberately arranged this way. And if this is what transpired in all of the voting centers in Lagos State in particular and the entire nation at large, then it is very unfortunate to say the least. Thanks." We also have this one from Val Okachi. He says the concerns raised by the former president Olusegun Obasanjo is coming at the right time. He says it shows clearly that he loves Nigeria and wants the best for the country. The irregularities so far recorded remain unprecedented. This election will go down as the worst ever conducted in the annals of our democracy. Obasanjo has proven that he's truly an elder statesman. He says good triumph over evil when men of goodwill remain silent in times of moral crisis. If the process is seen to be free, fair, and credible, everyone would gladly accept the outcome, no matter who emerges the winner. He says, "What have we seen? What we have seen for now is a show of shame. God help Nigeria."
You see, the last person talked about morals. And like I would always say, the basis for which any country would develop, first and foremost, is based on the culture of morals they have. I remember on Saturday, after they were even counting the results,
Okay.
and a lady broke down and started crying. I mean, crying profusely. And it was like, I never knew a day like this will come in Nigeria. A young lady, probably, and was like, now I can go and get pregnant again, more like believing in the system. For someone who had put that kind of emotion into this election, imagine how disappointed she'd be if for any reason, after the elections had been concluded, she now goes to the IREF portal and sees that her polling unit, the result that was written, that was uploaded is different from the one she had.
Hmm.
We need to be sensitive about these things,
All right.
and we need to just have an open mind
Okay. All right.
about it.
Okay. Thank you so much, Lubinko. Yes, Elizabeth.
Okay, so we have this message from Mr. Okay from Arekbo, Ogun State. He says, "Good morning, WFM." He says the most corrupt institutes in Nigeria today says is INEC department and Nigeria Police Force. President Buhari should cancel this Saturday presidential election and he should go and borrow money from China and conduct another presidential election again. He said because Nigeria is a country of borrowing right from the beginning. Hmm.
I disagree with Mr. Okay. Like I said, let's leave emotions out of this. It's not yet Uhuru, and it's good that at this point
Mm.
this questions have been raised,
Okay.
and we should still give the INEC chairman the benefit of doubt. He's under a lot of pressure.
Mm.
The way Senator Dino Milai went about making his point yesterday, it actually looked disruptive
Mm.
to a large extent. And of course, it takes someone who is very calm, very mature
Mm.
to respond differently from the way the INEC chairman. I mean, it could have in a normal state, it could have resulted in please securities take him out, please,
No,
and
in
the
that.
INEC chairman would still have been right to have done that. So please let's give the INEC chairman. It is good that we point out these things to
Okay.
them, and once it is pointed out to them, it's just a simple. And I want to believe that INEC can afford the technology needed. I mean, America had done these things, and the elections was coming up real time, real time. I mean, not. I mean, real time. When I say real time, I mean real time. It was just popping. You just see the map.
Mm.
You know, when you're watching
Seeing the
CNN,
results. Mm.
the map is just being painted the colors of as simple as that. And I
All
believe
right.
that we have the resources, we have the
To make
manpower,
that happen.
we have everything to make that happen.
All right. Thank you so much, Lubinko. Yes, we'll take the remaining messages and we'll wrap up this morning. Yes, Elizabeth.
Okay, so we have this one from Mr. Innocent from Wawa. He says, "Good morning, WFM. It will be fair for the press not to be biased over the gross manipulation of this election." He says, "In my polling unit, all legislative results were transmitted until a call came in instructing the presiding officer not to transmit the presidential." He says, "Note that he said, we held her hostage until she called the person back that we held them hostage. That was only what made them transmit." It says this election is a fraud. We all saw it. So that is coming mentioning what happened at his own polling units. We also have this one from Evangelist Shegun Oyedeji. He says, "Good morning, Esther, Elizabeth, and Lubinko."
Good morning.
He says, though many that he says to those who are becoming aggressive with INEC have their mindsets before the election through the utterances. But the questions are, why is INEC not transmitting the elections electronically as planned? Of what use is INEC chairman silent on sensitive issues of this magnitude? I pray some people are not groomed, paid, or paid to truncate this process with already charged atmosphere and the emotions of the people. May God reign in our confusion.
Mm.
Amen.
All right. Thank you so much for that. And taking this one lastly from Shola, this one says, "Greetings. I believe the argument of Dino at the National Coalition Center is not 100% genuine because it ought to have been challenged at the first three stages of coalition." All right.
Now, let
Thank
me
you
just quickly
so
react to that.
much. Thank you. It's
Yes,
a wrap on the
Dino should.
conversation this morning because I know that if you allow Lubinko will go on and on to this with this conversation this morning. There is a whole lot to be said on the elections, but let's just wait. 11 a.m. again, the INEC chairman will be at the National Coalition Center, and Nigerians, yes, we've been glued to our TV screens. Let's wait and hear what the INEC chairman has to say at 11 a.m. All right, Nigerians, I love this energy that we're keeping. Shows that people are more awake to the things
This is the
that
meaning of
concern.
election monitoring. Monitor your votes. This is
Yeah.
just the exact meaning of that.
So Thank you so much, Lobinko. Thank you for being on the show this morning.
Always my pleasure and duty to the country.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth, for being on the program this morning as well.
Thank you, Esther.
All right. Do well to join us tomorrow at 7:30 as we get to review the dailies across different Nigerian newspapers and we get to analyze them together. My name is Esther Alaribe. Do well to join us on Panorama at 9:05. Good morning.
Have you been a victim of corruption? Do you want to report how corruption affects you and your community? Send an SMS or WhatsApp message to 0703 175 6537.
To pass this important message, I searched over and over for one word that means compact, complete, ideal, perfect, and seamless at the same time. Well, I ended up with the phrase all in one. Yes, Whitel, the new all-in-one magic box from Spectranet, a portable desk phone that also works as a modem. Nothing beats this. My Whitel desk phone allows me to make